Not Titles podcast is brought to you by Landtrust Title Services, your partners for results. Well, hello, this is Steve Kaempf with the People Not Titles podcast, and I am thrilled to have Landtrust's Senior Account Executive, Miss Denise Hellstrom. Denise, so glad to interview you today. Welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, we're excited. So Denise, you've been in the title insurance business for a while, and you've been a professional for probably longer than you've been in the title insurance business.
That's true.
Why don't you tell us just really how you got started in your career?
Sure. I didn't start in the title industry. My first job was, or my first main big job was, I worked for Ameritech, and I worked in the marketing department.
Okay.
And I was there for quite a few years. I ended up job sharing there when I had my son. And
what's your son's name again?
AJ.
AJ, yes.
So I worked there for quite a few years, and like I said, towards the end, I ended up job sharing with another girl because of my son, and worked there, like I said, for many years, and then developed a relationship with one of the marketing managers there. She was director of marketing, and she moved to Dean Foods. And she asked me to come along with her. So I worked at Dean Foods in the marketing department for a couple of years. And then they decided to move their marketing department to Wisconsin. And I really couldn't do that. So I left.
Because of the Green Bay Packers?
Yes, of course. Who wants to see the stinky Green Bay Packers?
Right.
Chicago Bears fan, absolutely.
Yes.
So I decided to leave, or with the help of not being able to move to Wisconsin. That's how I ended up getting into the title industry. I had a friend that worked for a small title company, and she knew that they were looking for somebody, and it was a small division of Chicago Title. They're not around anymore, called REI.
Okay.
And that's where I started. And almost 20 years ago.
Wow. So let's just talk about the marketing experience that you've had. What were some of the big takeaways that you learned about yourself maybe during that period of time where you were in marketing?
You know, it was a very interesting, it made me realize the things I like. When I was at Ameritech, I worked for the prepaid phone card division. Remember prepaid phone cards?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it was very fun. We did a lot of work with celebrities. We had celebrity people on our phone cards. We did work with big companies, Shell. We had a prepaid phone card that was branded with Shell. So we did a couple of different cars. It was just kind of cool. And then when I went to Dean Foods, we did private label, and I really enjoy starting something from scratch. I can walk down the aisle, even today, to this day, I can walk down the grocery food aisle and see products that I helped put on the shelf.
Wow,
that's cool. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I really like bringing something to fruition, and that's what I like to do.
Yeah, so you're a creative person. I noticed that in the way that you work, the way that you work with your clients. So I see that carrying over into that, helping them get started on various initiatives, or helping them, an attorney connect with a new agent, and then helping them promote their business in unique ways, stuff like that. I see that thread kind of carrying through for marketing.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so let's talk about title. So title insurance, like, wow, I'm moving from Dean Foods to title insurance. What was that first, the beginning? Where did you work right out of the gate?
Well, I worked with a guy that, I didn't have sales experience, but I was used to working with
Did they hire
salespeople.
you as a salesperson at that time?
Yes, they did.
Okay, they did.
Yep. But I had worked with the salespeople at Dean Foods, and bringing things to fruition. So I was always very close with the sales team. And I think I felt that I was a good fit for a salesperson. I'm not a huge overpowering person. I tell you what you, I tell you the things that you need to know, and then you ask questions, and I can help you through whatever you need to get through. But I lost my train of thought.
Oh, yeah, no, just you're starting off in sales.
Yeah, so so I worked for a gentleman, and he kind of taught me the ropes. He took me out. We spent days in the car just calling on customers.
And were you calling on lenders? Were you calling on attorneys at the time?
At REI only worked with the lender business.
Great.
So that's where I kind of built my lender business, started with my lender business. And we knocked on doors. We went to banks. We had meetings. He taught me what to say, how to do it, what title insurance was. And I'm not a person that I just like take an order. I like to know what's title
happening.
Insurance is and what am I, I don't, and gosh, I mean, there are people in the industry that have been in the industry longer than me, examiners and things that have seen things I've never seen before. But I like to know the products. I like to know what we can do, what we can't do. I like a challenge. When a lender or an attorney comes to me and says, I've got this and it's not really making sense, I love to figure that out and help them get past it. So
awesome. And so you're starting off in sales. Did you get a sense, like, were you kind of trying to figure out, like, wow, am I going to like this? Am I going to be good at this? When did you feel like you clicked over at that time to, I think I got this?
I have to say that it got to a point where I didn't need the gentleman that was training
Who was
me.
holding your hand a little bit.
I didn't need him anymore. I'm like, I got this. I can
how
do
far
this.
how far into it was that?
I don't know, probably a couple months.
Okay, that's
And
pretty
then,
good.
And then I was like, yeah, I've got this. And, and don't get me wrong, I would call him and say, hey, I had this happen. What would you do? Or how would you handle it? But yeah, probably a couple months.
Okay.
I feel good when I'm out being with people. That's my jam. I like to do that. I like to get to know people. I like to figure out what makes them tick. I like to figure out what makes them happy, and then go from there.
Yeah, and you, so at that point in time, you had no problem door knocking. You had no problem with networking and all those kind of things. No. Did you have any fear at all, during that period of time?
No, not really. On the lender side of things, many years ago, things were so different. We used to have humongous parties.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of opportunities to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, it was that was the fun part of my job. It really was.
Yeah, the banking industry was wild and a lot of fun 20 years ago. It's a little different now. So are there still relationships from that period of time that you've carried to today?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, that's
absolutely.
Pretty cool.
I have a lot of customers that I started with and that followed me throughout my title career. And I have customers that are really personal friends too.
Yeah,
so.
That's great. And did you have some that you met during that period of time? This is kind of for that young person that's maybe thinking, it takes me a while to get going or whatever. There's some people that you probably met then that maybe didn't do business with you for 4 or 5 years down the road. All of a sudden they come around and they're like, Denise, I've seen you hanging around, and next thing you know, you get their business.
Yep. And you never know who you're going to meet and when they're going to come back at you.
So don't burn any bridges, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. I had a customer, an old customer, reach out to me through another customer of mine that we all knew, and I'm working on a nice deal right now with something that really is. It's yes, they need title insurance, but it is not your normal. It's not through a lender. It's not through an attorney. I think the only reason that opportunity came to me is because of the people that I know.
Wow, that's
and that
great.
I've met.
Yeah, and so if you had to, let's talk a little bit about your experience, Denise, because you then were more than a salesperson in terms of your various things that you've done in the title insurance field as a professional. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you've done beyond sales? Not that you like to do them, but some of the things that you did.
Well, I can, at my previous company before I came here, I was with Old Republic, and I was there for almost 13 years. We did a lot of things. The sales reps did a lot of things. I used to, when we were in a refi boom, I used to sit for days and disperse files.
Okay.
Refis, you have 3 days right of rescission. So from the closing to dispersing, there are days in between. I've done all the dispersing. I also learned how to close files. So I've closed refis. I close purchases now. I pretty much have done it all. Yeah.
So and how is that carried over into your ability to impact your customer?
Well, I think it makes me a very well-rounded salesperson. If an attorney calls me because they're having difficulties with a file and at the closing table, I can feel their pain. I know what they're feeling. I can help out. I can help a closer do something that maybe she can't do. That maybe I can reach out to the lender because I know I have a contact at the lender and I can help with that. So I think it just makes me a very well-rounded salesperson.
Yeah, and in terms of your experience, you have experience in residential and you have experience in commercial, right?
I do.
Yeah. So there's you have a lot of relationships with various banks that trust you with their commercial business, which is kind of a next level thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. When I started in my career, like I said, I started at a very small agent that's no longer around, and moved from there to a larger agent, and then I was with an underwriter for a while, and now I'm back with Landtrust. And I think in going through those steps, I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot of different things, and
yeah, you kind of have that big underwriter experience. You have that small
Yep.
kind of boutique title insurance title company experience. You have refi and lender experience.
Yep.
You have purchase experience. You've dealt a lot with realtors and all that, so that's fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the associations that you're involved in, and some, like what's important to you. And I know that you're always like pushing yourself to take new risks and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
yeah, I think it's important to be out there.
Yeah.
And be seen, because you just never know when something is going to happen, and they're going to be like, oh, you know what? That Denise person, I can talk to her about this, I bet. So I am very involved in the Schaumburg Business Association, and have been throughout my title career. My badge for Schaumburg Business Association since I've been a member since 2006.
Wow.
So they're very a very large association.
Yeah, it's a diverse group, right, of
Very,
all kinds of different
all
business people.
kinds.
Yeah.
And they've really afforded me an opportunity. Last year, a lot of people in the real estate industry were thinking out of the small business group, or the Schaumburg Business Group, that we were looking for a group where we could just do real estate. We could just
So it's kind of a
real estate
subgroup out of the Schaumburg Business Association.
Yeah. So I went to the Schaumburg Business Association with a business plan and kind of things that we wanted to do, or I wanted to do, and they were all over it. They were very excited about it. They thought that there was a huge need for it, and so they gave me their blessing, and I picked a team of another 4 or 5 people in the real estate industry.
Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are brought to you by our great sponsors, Landtrust Title Services, your partners for results.
The real estate industry, and we started the SBA Real Estate Alliance Group.
Wow.
Which is underneath the Schaumburg Business Association umbrella. And we had our first meeting in July, and we had 31 paid attendees.
Wow, fantastic. So you pioneered out of this long-standing relationship you had with Schaumburg Group. You now pioneered a subgroup really to represent the real estate professionals. Congratulations, that's fantastic. I know when you said it, I was like, hey, I hope it works, and bingo. So it's a little risky, right?
Yep.
You're like, what if no one shows up, or what if this is total BS, or what if I waste my time, right?
Yep.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Bravo. What other organizations are important to you right now?
I also am a member of the NASBAR.
Yep.
North Shore Barrington area, and I belong to their YPN group, which is the Young Professionals group. And I like that group because you tend to get a lot of the younger realtors that are just starting out. And they need people that have been in the industry that can help them build their network. They need attorneys, they need inspectors, they need that. And that's what I love to do about my job. I love to build teams. I love to say, hey, I know somebody that would be really good for you to partner with.
Yeah, you're a connector that
absolutely.
way. I noticed that.
Yep.
Any other groups? I know you're part of NASBAR.
Yeah, that's really, we're part of more. I mean, we do events every once in a while with more. But yeah,
you were pretty active with the Women's Council.
I was, but the Northwest chapter here just really hasn't been doing a lot lately.
Okay.
So I'm really not.
Okay, you're not that involved.
Anymore.
So
no.
How does it's not just like, oh, I have nothing better to do, so I'm going to join a group, right? You really look at these groups and say, how's this fit with my vibe? How can I, by attending, how can I add value to my network, right? So how does that fit in with your client base then, with your networking and your activities? How does that vibe with that?
Well, meeting new realtors, I mean,
Absolutely.
they take my card, and I'm like, hey, if you need somebody, let me know. If I don't know somebody personally in that particular arena that you're looking for, I know somebody that does, and I can get you somebody. And it's always, you've interviewed Alan Stern,
Yeah,
good
fantastic.
friend of mine.
Yeah,
and his favorite saying is, people work with people they know, like, and trust.
That's awesome.
And when I would rather give somebody a referral than have them go to a yellow page book, right? Or whatever. Google it just out
of the blue and take someone's word for it on a review or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about this networking, Denise, because you have a full-time gig, right, where you are spending your day building relationships, making sales calls, dealing with issues, feeling the pressures of the real estate business, and then it's 4:00, right? And then you go, okay, I got this event I have to do. And so tell me, how do you transition? Because you now got to show up to this event like with a mindset of, I'm going to bring positive energy. So you could have had a crappy day and you could have had a great day. How do you break it off and not carry that into the event?
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I try. When I start my day, I usually walk 4 or 5 miles every day.
So that's part of your routine.
That's part of my routine. Yes, and during that hour's time that I'm walking, I try to set my mind at, okay, this is what I've got to do today, and this is what I'm going to get done today, and I really try to be present for networking events and things like that. I'm not going to say I'm not always at the top of my game, but for the most part.
That's part of being human, right?
Yeah, but I am a pretty positive, upbeat person, so I try not to let things get me too down.
Right.
And we're not doctors, we're not saving lives, right?
Right.
So nothing is
that serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great. I see that. I see you bringing energy in, and I just wonder if there's something that you do to kind of break off or, separate that part of your day from the networking event. Let's talk about how you're interacting with clients, Denise. So why do attorneys do business with you? Why do they pick you think?
I think because I am very, very easy to access. I mean, we're out seeing people during the day. I always, before I move on to my next, wherever I'm going, I always check my phones. I always,
So you're available.
I'm available,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that is a major contender for them to be looking for somebody that they can get a hold of.
Right.
So, I always say the most time you're not going to be able to reach me is if I'm meeting with a client.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's an hour, but for the most part, you're going to hear from me. So I try to be very accessible. A lot of, I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people like to text, and, it does make things a little easier, a little faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's
available.
Available.
Yeah, and
Yep.
one of the things I notice about you is having been from the beginning of the transaction to the end and doing that even closing piece. There's some things that you see. A lot of times it's one thing to get a call and solve the problem. It's another thing to cover it before anyone even calls you. Because you kind of think ahead and go, there could be this issue and this issue and this issue, and you check into it, and you I don't want to say fix it, but you make sure that bump, it never shows up to the rest of the public. Right. So a lot of times people might say, oh, I do business with Denise and there's no problems, and it's like, oh yeah, there was a lot of problems, you just never saw them, or whatever, right? So you kind of see that and get ahead of that in a good way. So let's talk about the current pressures in the market, okay, that realtors are facing. How are you dealing with realtors in that regard now?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yes.
And I think that there are some people that think, the new rules are going into effect in August next month. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of people that aren't sure what's going to happen and don't know how to deal with it. They've never had to, they've never asked buyers to sign an agreement. And so I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say fear, but I think they're a little nervous because they've never done it before. My next Real Estate Alliance Group meeting, we have Kate Sachs coming from Moore, and our Real Estate Alliance Group meets the second Wednesday of every month, and in August that will be August 14th, so it will be a few days before August 17th, which is the date that things are supposed to change as of right now, and I think it will be very interesting to see what she has to say and what she has to say to the realtors, and see what the kind of questions that they have.
Well, that's really cool that you're that's one of the ways that you're giving back right to the industry is by preparing them with knowledge, with information, things like that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what I think about when I think, hey, there's uncertainty, whatever I can control that is certain, I want to, whether it be having a good partner like you, having a great attorney on my team, right?
Yep.
Making sure I have a good lender, making sure I'm surrounded with professionals that are not like half in the game, but are really in the game.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have a pretty good network of great attorneys, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I love all of my attorneys. I mean, some of them are a little crazy. Some of them are a little quiet, but that's okay. It's fine. And
Different
the crazy
strokes,
ones,
right?
And the crazy ones you can pair up with another crazy person, and then they have a great relationship. So I think that's what I bring to the table. I really can put people together that work well together.
Right. Okay, so let's step away from business for a second, just kind of as we wrap up, because I think we're learning a lot about you, Denise. What's important to you outside of work?
Well, family, of course.
And you just had a son that got married.
I just
AJ.
had a big event,
Yeah.
yes. My one and only son got married. And so family is very important. I look forward to grandchildren someday soon. Not tomorrow, but
no
soon.
pressure,
Yeah,
right?
no pressure.
Yeah,
no
but
pressure.
hurry up.
So family, just being thankful for what I have.
Yeah.
I have a mom that is in a nursing home, and actually, when I started with Landtrust,
it was just kicking off.
It was just
right?
kicking off,
Yeah.
and so it's been it will be 3 years next month, and it's difficult to watch a parent lose their mind, and
Yeah.
It can be really trying on you. So, I try to support her and
Yeah.
try to do as much as I can for her, and so really, family is
Family.
very
yeah.
important to me.
It is difficult, and I've watched you do that, and it's a tough transition, right? To go from mom took care of me to us being buddies, and to all of a sudden on the other end of it, you're taking care of mom. So
Yep.
bless you for doing that. And I think you have a real good passion for delivering the American dream. Like, how important it is for people to make sure that home purchase goes smoothly. And so, is that something that excites you still about this business?
Absolutely. I love to, if I happen to close a file, I love to congratulate the buyers and say, hey, are you moving in this weekend or this coming weekend? I like to hear their plans and hand over those keys to them. That's what this is all about, right? And giving people that dream. So, yeah. Absolutely.
So, Denise, when you're under pressure, and so we'll finish up on this, right? When you're under pressure, how do you respond to that? Like, there's pressures of the workday, there's pressures of daily life. What helps you get through? I know you said walking, you said kind of this, just clearing your mind, your family. Is there anything else that you can speak to that helps you get through some of the stresses of the day?
I have 2 great dogs.
Okay.
What
are their names?
Roxy and Bo.
Okay.
And they can ground you. I come home and I've had a really bad day. They don't care. They're so happy to see you, right?
Unconditional love given to you by dogs.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
I think.
And then rolling down the highway in your convertible.
Yes. Steve and I have that in common.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the spring started, I would call Steve and say, "Are you putting your top down today?"
Today's the day. It's 33 degrees and sunny.
Yep.
It's time.
So I'm a huge. I love the outdoors. I mean, my husband and I are hikers. So I love to be outside. One of the for my son's wedding, I wrote a poem for them.
Oh.
And one of the lines.
So you're creative, Denise.
Yeah. One of the lines I wrote in the poem referred to AJ and I when he was young. We used to put the top down and watch the stars go.
Wow. That's great.
Anything outside, anything having to do with outside can really ground me and bring me back to, reality and kind of just calm me down.
Yeah, stepping outside of the little problem of the day and be able to look at the big picture. I see you able to do that a lot. Okay, well, Denise, this has been great. I think this is going to be really fantastic for people. I know there's a lot of people that really know you well, and so it'll be fun for them to hear the things they already know about you. But I think it'll be really great for those who don't know you well or those who you're just meeting, for them to know a little bit more about you. So thank you for doing this. I think you're an inspiration to people, women and men that want to build a professional career. You've done it for 20 years here, and you still have great energy and positivity to continue to build. So that is really amazing. So congratulations for that.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right. Girl, that's great. A half hour. Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are proudly sponsored by Landtrust Title Services. If you enjoyed the podcast, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we'd love it if you'd share our podcast with your friends. Thanks a lot.